Hey everyone, Mobius1 here again, doing another Star Wars Galaxies Emu, that's right, I said Emu, haha, video. This one, I guess is going to be another story time episode, but it does have a little bit of educational tips in it, sort of, because it involves housing. So, yes, sit back, open your ears, and enjoy. Basically, for those of you that have been watching each episode, you've probably heard several times now that I used to lead a guild. We were big into PvP. We did a lot of what's called base busting, which is something that I still have to cover for the emulator. And quite frankly, the only reason I haven't yet is because I need some help from other people. But we'll get into that later. So yes, base busting, there are these faction bases that players can purchase from recruiters with faction points that contribute to like which faction owns a planet. So right now if I type in /GCW, it tells me that the Empire is winning because they have more faction bases on the planet right now than the Rebels do. And that's something that, again, I'm going to cover in another video, so I don't want to go into too much detail on that, but it's important to know that for the story that I'm going to tell you, that's basically what we were fighting over. My guild had a city here on Naboo. We were down in this very southeast corner of the map, kind of south of where the city Shadowfire is on Basilisk. We were kind of down here. We were in that city with like two other rebel guilds. And we had, like, I think we had 2 rebel bases down there. And we had defended these bases for so long. I don't even know. It was like months. Literally, it was like, these 2 bases in particular, they weren't ours. They were one of the other rebel guilds that we were in the alliance with. They were their bases, but we defended them probably for around 2 months. And we were at war with several Imperial guilds. One of them I remember was called Crimson Keep, and they owned, I think, like this island. It was one of these islands, and it might have been this one, kind of in the middle of the map on Naboo. And there was another, oh no, I'm sorry, it was Crimson Keep was the name of their city. It was like Crimson something was the name of their guild. And then the other Imperial guild we were at war with was like the largest Imperial guild on the server, whose base was on, her city was on Rory, which is the moon in Naboo, and their name, or their guild tag, was Dark. Now, Dark, we had done several raids on Dark, and many of them were unsuccessful, particularly because of the way they had designed their city. So, what I want to teach you is a little bit of a glitch. Some would say it's an exploit, particularly because the developers of Galaxies in the live version had actually changed it so that you couldn't do this anymore. But basically, what I want to show you, I picked up 3 house deeds before I came out here. I have 2 medium houses and a small house, Naboo. They all have to be Naboo style. Well, the mediums do. Particularly, you don't need the small, I'm just going to use that to demonstrate this, but if I go to build a medium Naboo house, let me see what kind of room I have to work with here. Okay, I'm going to try and put this right in the middle. Yeah, it's good enough. Alright, so I'm going to build a medium Naboo house. Bam. Okay, so here's my medium house. Medium Naboo house. Now, you'll notice when I go to build my medium small house... Oh, crap, I don't have enough room there. Shoot. Oh, this will work. Because you could still see with the wireframe... Oh, it does fit there. Derp. Okay, perfect. So, yes. So you'll see if I try to build a small Naboo house next to this, no matter which way I rotate it, there's always a gap between the houses, and it's no matter which side you put it on, because part of the small houses model includes some space, some empty space around the edge. You see that? So when I place this down, See how it looks like it butts right up against that house? But since the small house's model includes this empty space, it forms a nice, neat little alleyway. However, the medium Naboo house, on the other hand, oh no, requires 2 lots. I'm going to have to destroy the small house. Hold on. Good, I have cash on hand. I don't know if I can destroy it without depositing. Oh, hey. It already has 41,000 credits worth of maintenance in it. 937. Goodbye. Okay. So you'll notice now, should have given me my lots back. Good. The medium houses, I'm going to build it on the other side. No, you know what? Screw it. Just for demonstration purposes, I'll build it in the same exact spot. Bam. Now see, that looks like it butts up, and when the house appears, it actually does. That alley does not exist when you have 2 medium Naboo houses. It literally forms an impenetrable wall, a barrier. And obviously, since houses and galaxies only have 1 entrance, the back is just, it's basically a wall. It's an indestructible, impassable wall. Now, like I said, the SOE eventually fixed this. I think they extended the footprint of the medium Naboo house to include an alley in between. But anyway, it's all irrelevant to the story. But it's important to know that this still exists in the emulator. I've already seen people using this to form streets and walls in their player cities. So this is what I'm going to tell you is very, very possible in the emulator. Basically, the Imperial Guild Dark used this tactic to form a virtual, or I shouldn't even say virtual, a literal maze. Excuse me. They formed a literal maze out of their city that funneled any sort of attack down these very narrow streets of medium Naboo houses, so that anyone who was attempting to attack their 4 Imperial bases basically had to follow a very strict path through their city to get to their bases. Now, we had seen this, and it was very clever, and when we first saw it, we were like, wow, that is like the coolest thing that we'd ever seen, because it was almost like a dungeon crawler. Right, like you're slowly making your way through, and like the Imperials were fighting us back, and you'd literally be on the corner of the maze, and there'd be 20 Imperials waiting for you to come around the corner, and a rifleman would peek their head out, and he'd get shot, and the doctor would have to try and revive him, whatever. It was awesome. All right. So this went on for a while, and when we were building our city in the southeast of Naboo, we were like, dude, we have to do something like that. And I came up with a plan. And to this day, this is probably the greatest thing. Second to unlocking Jedi, this had to have been the greatest moment for me in Galaxies. In the 8 years that I played Galaxies, this was the biggest thing that happened. And it still is I remember it like it was yesterday kind of a thing. We had our 2 bases in the center of the town, kind of like where these 2 medium Naboo houses are here. But obviously the bases were a little bit more spread out. And we had completely encompassed them in medium Naboo houses to form a complete wall around them with 1 gap right in the middle to form a perfectly... Oh, someone didn't pay their maintenance on their house. Oh well. Anyway, there was a perfectly front... It was almost like a front door entrance that they had to come through, almost like a castle would have walls around, but with the main drawbridge in the front. And all of the houses had their doors, their front doors were all facing into the center of the compound, so to speak. And the cool thing about Galaxies is, if anyone hasn't noticed already, but if you are in a house, or if a player is in a house, when another player drives up, there is no way to tell that that player is in the house. The only way you will be able to see someone on a radar when they're in a house is if they were outside the house when you drive up, or if you enter the house. But since you can make houses private, you can essentially hide. It's almost like being in stealth mode. If you remain inside a house and if someone drives up on me right now, since I'm in a house, they will not see me on their radar until either they enter my house and be like, oh, Mobius is in here, or if I exit the house, then I'll pop up on their radar and they'll be like, oh, Mobius is over there. Then once I exit, if I go back into the house, they'll still see me because the game has already registered that I'm here. But as long as you're in the house, there's no way for anyone outside to know that you're there unless they had already seen you. Now, what had happened is we had like an Imperial spy that had told us, like, hey, they're going to attack you at this time or whatever. And unfortunately, we didn't have enough people to defend. So we knew we were going to lose the bases. There were about 4 of us, maybe 5 of us. I don't remember exactly who was there, but it was me. It was like 1 or 2 other people from my guild, and it was like a very small number of people from the other rebel guilds, because it was like really late at night or something, and Takora was like out on business. I don't know if she was on a trip or something, because I know she wasn't on. And so we're hiding in the houses, and I'm hiding in one right by the front entrance. Or actually, I was standing outside. That's what happened. I was standing like on the front porch of a house by the front entrance, and I see this huge swarm of Imperials like approaching. And it was like, oh, the British are coming, the British are coming. And I run inside of the house, and the house is private, so it's locked. Now, all those people that saw me could still tell that I was here. What they didn't know is how many other rebels we had. And I had, a couple of the other ones poke their heads out of like different houses around the perimeter of the compound, so that these Imperials saw that, we had a number of rebels there. So they knew I wasn't by myself, but obviously they didn't know how many people were there. And they're all like waiting outside the castle. It was almost like when a medieval army rolls up on a castle and they're waiting for their siege, or in Lord of the Rings, like the orcs, or the Uruk-hai, how they waited outside of Helm's Deep, like waiting for the moment to strike. It was very, very impressive, and there had to have been like there was at least 50. I don't know exactly how many there were. Could have been 60, could have been 70, but it was at least 50. There were a lot of players. Like if you've watched my the episode that I did on the Great Community, how many people showed up for that event, it was like that. There were a lot. It was like a sea of blue name tags. Anyway, so they show up, and one of them, a handful of them, like came up and were talking to me through the wall of my house. And they're like, so, are you guys going to come out, or are you just going to be pussies and hide in your house? The kind of trash talk you would expect in a game's PvP. And I was like, I don't know, do you really want us to come out and kick your asses that bad? Like, what do you want us to do? And they were like, well, we're going to destroy your bases. I was like, okay, go ahead. So they started trickling in very slowly. And the thing about the GCW bases is they have base defense turrets and NPCs that spawn outside that prevent the enemy team from going right into the base and destroying it. And even once they get into the base, when they start to destroy it, there's a whole procedure that they have to go through. Basically, it takes time. And so they enter the compound, they're working on the base defenses. There are a few of them are kind of hanging outside the compound, waiting to see if like rebels are going to come out of the houses and flank them or whatever. Which there weren't any rebels to do so. The handful of ones that were in there, I had told them, look, you guys, you need to retreat, like get out of here. And some of them, actually I think all of them except one might have ended up dying trying to escape. So they got out. And what I was doing was systematically banning each one from our city, so that they couldn't clone in our cloning facilities. But more importantly, I was making sure that there were no rebels remaining in the compound, because what I had planned for them was downright mean. And I'm very proud of it. But anyway, once I saw the last Imperial enter the compound and start fighting the base turrets, once I was sure that there were no other Imperials outside of our little fortress, I finally poked my head out of the house, opened up my inventory, scrolled down to a medium Naboo house that I had waiting in my inventory, and plopped it right in the entrance to our little encampment, enclosure, fortress, whatever you want to call it. Essentially trapping all 50 of our Imperial attackers within a giant square of medium Naboo houses that they could not escape from. There was no shuttle port, which even if there was, they couldn't use it because I had banned them all. No cloning facility, nothing. There was nothing there except the 2 bases, which they did eventually destroy. And then... what? What would you do? There are 50 Imperial troops who had destroyed our 2 bases and were now stuck in a giant square box that they could not get out. It sounds like a sick riddle. If 50 Imperials were trapped in a box, you know, ultimately what had happened is they started dueling each other. They would duel each other and death blow each other so that they could clone outside of the box. The combat medics were trying to put poisons on people to I don't know exactly what they were trying to do because I was too busy laughing. There was a handful of us were outside just laughing our asses off. And this went on for probably about an hour. They had ended up all dueling each other down to the last 3 or 4 people, until finally, regretfully, a CSR showed up and told me that I was exploiting and that I needed to remove the house or I was going to get in trouble. So I removed the house. But to this day, that was the greatest thing. Like I said, other than unlocking my Jedi character, that moment right there was the greatest moment I've had in Galaxies. And I love it. And I love that we can recreate it again, if we so wanted to. Though it's probably still considered an exploit, especially if you completely encase players in it. It's definitely something that is affecting another player's experience with the game. Thus, an exploit, or thus against the EULA, however you want to look at it. But this is the one story that I've been holding on to and talking about wanting to tell, because quite honestly, I do have other stories that I can tell and make videos of, but nothing quite as amazing as this. So I hope you guys like this. If you thought this was good, post comment, like, subscribe, all that fun jazz that other YouTubers always say that I really haven't started saying until recently. And yes, if you or your friends know anybody who's big into PvP that happens to not be a douchebag like some PvPers I know, send me a message, because I do want to make a GCW video, but I don't have the resources or the time to do it on my own. So I'm looking for partners. Also, I've decided that I am going to start another Let's Play series for an old school Star Wars game, and I have quite a few of them. So in the description for this video, I'm going to post a list of Star Wars games that I have, and I have the capability of recording. Go ahead and comment on here as to which one that you guys would like to see. I've already spoken to a couple people in game, so I already have kind of a mental list of games that people want to see, but I'd like to have an official list anyway. So yes, please take 3 seconds that it takes to do that, and yeah, again, hope this story was entertaining, and I will see you guys in game next time. Bye.